right, babe, it's all you.
Awesome. Wow, so many things. Okay, so let me just give a brief disclaimer real quick right off the bat. I've barely eaten anything all day. I haven't worked out. There's so much in this team call. It's going to be crazy. So buckle up. Just buckle up, get ready. For those of you who are my science nerds out there, we're going to get sciencey on Shakeology. For those of you who aren't my science nerds out there, I'm sorry, you're going to see a whole new world of me that's not going to be super deep. I'm not going to drop biochemical reactions on the board or anything, although there is a board here in my office, but we're not actually going to go to that. And since this is going on for posterity, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrew Bowen. I am the lesser half of Team Rising Phoenix with Joy and Drew. We've been coaches for, going on 6 years now at this point. And have fallen in love with Shakeology over the course of that time frame. So what the big disclaimer on this one is going to be, I am in no way a medical professional. I am not a nutritionist. I am not even somebody who plays one on TV. Here's what I am. I am a classic bro scientist who knows how to research beyond just typing in, is this good or not in Google? Because depending on how you phrase your question in Google, you'll get the answer that you would expect to get based on the question. So what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of dive into the ingredients of Shakeology. And we are going to talk a lot about different studies and different proven medical effects and believed medical effects for the ingredients that are in Shakeology. Now, I'm not in any way saying, because again, disclaimer that's on the screen, I'm not going to say that Shakeology, in and of by itself either prevents, treats, or any other adjective thereof of any disease, medical condition, or anything else. But we will talk a lot about a few different medical studies that have been done with the ingredients of Shakeology. We will talk about one study that was done actually with Shakeology specifically, and I'll highlight that. But again, do your own research. Go out and do your own thing, but we're going to talk a lot about this. This is really designed for coaches to be more comfortable with what's in it, what effects do those ingredients have, how do we overcome common objections, etc. So with that said, let's get going. Okay, so I want to present Shakeology in a way that you might not have thought of it before. We talk a lot about it being the superfood shake, or my protein smoothie, or my mom juice, etc. I want you to kind of think of Shakeology really as the combination of 5 different blends. And we'll talk about the math between these 5 different blends at the end, and we absolutely get that. But when we look at the 5 different blends, we're really going to talk about it in these different components. And I think the objection that we get the most, or at least I've always gotten the most, really lies in group number 1. And that is that clean protein blend. Well, isn't this just a really expensive protein shake? Clearly the answer is no. We're going to go really into that here in a little bit. But when you really break down the 5 different blends, that if you were to go out and go to a health food store or a holistic nutrition store and say, I want to get the same effects of what Shakeology is bringing for me, you're going to really fall in these 5 categories. That first one is the clean protein blend, and we'll talk in detail about that. The second one is the super greens and the phytonutrients. We talk about those. Second one goes into super fruits and antioxidants, which is actually one of my favorites to dig into. Then we'll get into adaptogens, which that is probably the hardest one to actually understand, but it is the one that is the most exciting. And the research behind the ingredients that are in there is insane what's coming out of that camp right now. And then last but definitely not least is the digestive support formula. So, each dose of Shakeology, as you can see on there, combines all 5 of those things. And the Western adult diet, whether you're talking about America or Europe or North America or wherever, really is devoid of the vast majority of these micronutrients and everything that goes into this blend. Joy, if you can do me the favor of watching the chat, because I don't have it up on mine right now. So if there's questions throughout, hit the chat. Well, believe me, I am the son of 2 college professors. I learned a long time ago, it is completely within my DNA to lecture for 45 minutes. I have zero problem with that. Don't let that happen. Just chat up, interrupt me, let's go. So, with the fine formulas in one concept, what we're going here. What we're going to talk about today is, okay, what is Shakeology really? We kind of already started about that. It's way beyond just a, again, as the objection comes in, a super expensive protein blend or a protein shake, which is number 2 on there. We're going to talk about what are these superfoods, above and beyond how to pronounce ashwagandha, even though Tony Horton really pronounces very well in his videos. How does it help so many people, and is it really good for you? We're going to kind of dive into those. So that's kind of the core of what I'm going to talk about, and give you guys a little bit more teeth to some of the answers you might have to some of the objections you might get, or at least the ones that we typically have been seeing. But I want to start with a double-blind placebo study that, this isn't the double-blind placebo study. This was the clinical study that Beachbody put out there back in 2014. And I actually don't think we do nearly a good enough job of promoting this. And what they did is they took 100 plus participants, and they did not change anything about their diet or their exercise program, with the exception of they consume Shakeology daily. That was the only difference. They asked them to maintain their standard lifestyle. Don't change the way you exercise if you're exercising already. Don't change the diet you're doing before this, but just add in Shakeology in the place of one protein so we can have that going on there. And they asked them to do that for 90 days. So what they found on that study group, and again, this is a published medical study that's out there, I'm happy to get the link for anybody who wants it, is over the course of that 90 days, the first thing we saw across the board was a reduction in blood sugar level. The way they measured that was by looking at hemoglobin A1C. Now, hemoglobin A1C is actually a blood marker that is a blood marker they look for in diabetics. Now, you'll see that the average drop that they had on there was 5%, which in and of itself in 90 days is actually amazing. That is a remarkable drop in there, and that is what we want. We want to mitigate that sugar and that insulin spike within our bodies. But if you look at the maximums, now talk about the averages, but let's look at the maximum. The maximum actually went down by 15%.
Andrew.
Yes, ma'am.
Your volume keeps cutting in and out.
There's literally, is that for everybody or just you?
Yes, it's like for your mic is like cutting in and out.
Okay, well, let me see which mic it's on. Hold on.
I thought it was just me, but everyone's talking about it.
Oh no, we're going to do this. My guess is it's going to be so much better now. A little bit, kind of, maybe. Probably not going to cut out now. Okay. Sorry about that. There's only like 5 microphones in this room, so I just decided to use like the most least reliable one out of all of them, which is just awesome. I'm not going back to the beginning, y'all. Like, it's just not gonna happen. So again, the first one of this study back in 2014, over 90 days, only difference, add Shakeology, blood sugar went down by 5%. Yay, blood sugar. Second one that happened, cholesterol. They were measuring total cholesterol. So this is both HDL and LDL, as well as small density particles, all that kind of good stuff that I could go on forever on that I'm not going to here. That actually dropped on average 7%. What blew my mind when I read this one was that where on average it went down by 7%, there was at least one person in the study where their cholesterol, their total cholesterol dropped by 50%. Now, we've actually had this same effect happen within our family. When Joy's stepfather went on to Shakeology, Joy, do you remember the percentage that Gary's dropped by any chance?
I don't have that right in front of me, but it was
a lot. Numbers geek, not numbers geek. So anyways, we've seen that happen in our own family and that drop. And then last but not least, and this is amazing because remember, They did not change their workout programs. They did not change their diet other than Shakeology. And on average, this is where we can come back and say it supports healthy weight loss. And believe me, it is not easy to say that in today's world with litigious society and everything else. But because of a study like this, you can see that on average, people drop 9.3 pounds over the course of 90 days. So 3 1/3 pound a month just by drinking Shakeology. And then the most someone lost during that time frame was 24 pounds, which again just blows me away because remember there's no other changes in this setup. That was a study that was done back in 2014. If you've got someone that says, does this really work? Yeah, science actually says it works. We've got studies to prove it. There is another study that I'm trying to find. I know it's out there, and it was a double-blind placebo study that studied the effects of protein shakes on hunger and weight loss. And this wasn't one that was commissioned by Beachbody. It was actually, I don't remember which journal it's in, but I know I've seen it. I'll find it. But what they did basically was they took a number of different protein shakes, including Shakeology in that mix, and they actually basically said, okay, well, does this really curb hunger? Does this really contribute to weight loss? And the results of that was unequivocally yes, and Shakeology was the top of that list. That was actually published in 2018 from a study that was done in early 2018 as well. I will find it and I'll put it in the notes here, but that's another really, really, really cool one. The reason I bring this up and I put this in here is, okay, the research supports that claims we don't even make. No one's claiming, hey, drink Shakeology, you're gonna lose a ton of weight. It's a part of a healthy life cycle and a part of what we do, but it's a superfood shake that goes above and beyond just what is, you know, a protein shake that's out there. Now, we talked about the 5 different things that are kind of the 5 different blends that make up Shakeology. So let's deal with those individually as well. The first one is a clean protein blend. Now you'll notice I say clean protein blend in this. You know, let's understand what protein is, number one. Your body does not absorb protein. Like that's a misnomer. And when you think about the gut, we're gonna talk a little bit about that throughout this conversation. The gut is basically a big giant hose that goes through your body. And just like if you dropped an acorn in one end of a hose and let it run through, none of the acorn comes out the outside of the hose. Your gut is the same way. It's only gonna take in what it wants to absorb, and that's not protein. What it does want to absorb though is amino acids. And amino acids are the building blocks of protein. So when someone, like, if they're asking about recovery and they say, well, does it have branched chain amino acids? They're talking about the building blocks of those proteins that have kind of already been broken down. Every source of protein has a different amino acid blend or different profile per se. That's why if you're ever talking to vegetarians or vegans, one of the things they worry about, or should worry about anyways, in my opinion, is are you getting complete protein? Just having one source of protein, like if you get a rice protein, for example, and your protein powder is all rice protein, you are not getting the complete spectrum of proteins your body really needs. Now, as you can see on the screen on there, you've got 2 different types. I'm gonna deal with the vegan and the regular as we talk about throughout these, because they are different and we need to address some of these differences, especially for very particular clients or coaches who might have specific needs. So the sources of the proteins within the vegan, let's start with. Chia seeds, pea protein, sacha inchi, flax, quinoa, which for years I pronounced quinoa. I'm just gonna throw myself under that bus. Quinoa, and then the 2 that are unique to vegan Shakeology is the rice protein and the oat protein. I haven't finished the research to figure out if that is a true complete protein profile of that one. I have the feeling that it is, but don't quote me on that one. The regular protein, or the whey, you'll notice there's a difference. And they're in the order, by the way, of the ingredient list, which means you're gonna have the most of whatever's first, the least of whatever's last. But in the regular, you've got whey protein, you've got pea protein, sacha inchi, the flax, and the quinoa is what's going into that one. Now, I want to spend just a little bit of time on whey protein, because anybody who is kind of health conscious, is more focused on the bro science or the science of the nutrition, is going to have some questions around whey protein. Specifically, let's talk about first what is actually in Shakeology. It's whey protein isolate. And that isolate is kind of what it sounds like. They are isolating that protein down to get just that protein. Now, whey is coming from dairy, it's coming from milk. And if you're not isolating that out, it will oftentimes have the lactose and the other components of that. And the lactose, by the way, and lactase is what is bothersome to people who are dairy intolerant. So it actually shouldn't have much of an effect on someone who's dairy intolerant as well. If someone is that way, definitely encourage them to go vegan. It's just an easier pathway for sure, as far as Shakeology goes. But the way that is isolated down is, instead of having the, there are two ways to do that, or there's multiple ways, but there's two main ways. The first one is to do what is a denaturing. Denaturing, way oversimplifying, is heat it really hot, get it pure, and just take out the pure stuff. The problem with that, particularly with proteins, is think about the way you cook anything when it comes to a protein. You put it on a stove until it breaks down and you're able to chew it and it gets nice and soft and go things. Denaturing, again, I'm way oversimplifying this process. So for those of you who are science nerds for me, you're going to watch this later on YouTube, don't hit me up and hate me on this one. I get it. But denaturing has that heating process that breaks down and can absolutely break down the quality of the protein. That is not the way that our whey isolate is actually created. Our whey isolate is created actually through cold filtering. So it is actually through a cold filtering pressuring process that actually is able to accomplish the same thing with the purity. And the whey isolate is actually the highest concentration of purity that's actually bioavailable for us to be able to bring in. So that's one thing people will be worried about. And there is some misinformation out there, unfortunately from some pretty good sources, about that we're using undenatured whey protein. That's just simply not true. So you can be able to go to that one. The second thing that we'll often get, and I want to address the idea of, is Shakeology organic at this point? Because this is a great spot to do it. Organic is just a certified label. As a kid who grew up in a household with two chemistry professors as parents, one of which is a biochemist and the other an inorganic chemist, the idea that there are organic meats and non-organic meats drives me freaking nuts. Because organic truly means, is it carbon-based? Yes, they're all carbon-based. But what they're really talking about is, did you go through a very specific process to get organic certified? The answer, quite candidly, is no. Because with where we get a lot of our product from, a lot of our sources from, when you're sourcing things from a high-Andes farm, because it's the most pure source of camu camu that you can get, to get that actually organically certified would raise the price of Shakeology to $500, $600 a bag. It's just, that juice is not worth the squeeze. Now, what does happen is these products are actually tested. Each batch is tested probably more times than what it would take to be certified organic, because it literally is tested 1,900 times between first collection, actually even before first collection, but first collection through to when it's delivered to your door. Every batch of Shakeology is tested for pesticides, herbicides, purity, potency, about a little over 1,900 times during that time frame. So no, it's not actually organic from a certification perspective. But the reality is, what I care about with organic is I want to make sure that I'm not getting all the crap I shouldn't, like the herbicides and the pesticides and those types of things, the heavy metals, etc. And I am getting the most quality protein and other components that I possibly can. And that's really what is going on. And that's why we source the vast majority of our whey from European markets and European farmers that live up to those higher standards. We do have some American farmers that are also involved in that live up to the higher standards than what the USDA has out there, but the Beachbody standards are a little bit higher than that. So again, when you're talking about protein, number one, I guess the last one I want to throw you out on the protein. and I heard this today and I didn't realize it until today. When you take the bag of Shakeology and someone says, isn't it an overpriced protein powder? Only 20% of what's in that bag is actually protein. The other 80% is everything else we're going to talk about. So no, it's definitely not a protein powder. And I love Joy's line on this one is, I introduced me to the American who's actually protein deficient at this point. We have no problem getting enough protein in our diets. It's all the other stuff we're gonna talk about. So to that end, let's go to one of my favorites. Let's talk about super greens. These are the stuff that is coming from the moringa, the chlorella, the spinach, the kale, the matcha, all those kind of great, fantastic foods that are coming from the greens that we have, at least I have such a hard time getting into my diet. And literally on all our programs, you're allowed to eat as much as you want because they want you to get as much as you can of these in there. Now, these are known for detoxification, changing alkalinity in the body structure, and also oxygenizing in the body structure. Now, here is a fairly cool fact that I need to get the actual scientist's name on. So if somebody wants to Google check me while we're on, that'd be awesome, and throw it in the chat. There was a scientist in the 1920s named Otto something, I can't remember his last name at this point, who actually found that cancer cells cannot survive in an alkaline oxidative state, meaning that if your body presence has a more basic pH profile, you have acid, you have base, so a more basic pH profile, and is highly oxygenated, cancer doesn't like that. It just doesn't like it. It's why that we eat so much broccoli and cauliflower in our house, is having a cancer survivor in the house. I want as much of that as we possibly can being pushed in the house, because what do these types of vegetables do? They do exactly that. They create a more alkaline environment in your body, and they create a very oxygenated environment in your body, which cancer has a really hard time growing in. You know what cancer really likes? It likes an acidic environment that's low in oxygen, which that's exactly what these kind of, do the exact opposite of. So why this particular blend? And this is kind of cool when people are looking at these. When we look at such things as, I'll give you an example. Green tea. You'll notice green tea is not on that list. There's no green tea, but if you go out there and you go to Starbucks, you go anywhere else, green tea is out there really being highlighted as, hey, it has great antioxidant characteristics. And they're right, it does. However, matcha, which was added about 2 years ago, along with chaga and the mushrooms, we'll talk about those in a little bit. Matcha actually has 137 times more catechins. Catechins are the specific antioxidant factor that is found within green tea and matcha. 137 more times more catechins than green tea does. So is green tea bad? No, not in any way, shape, or form. If you're gonna pick between a Diet Coke and green tea, go green tea every single freaking time. But when you're gonna talk about what goes in a bag that has a finite amount of volume, and I want the maximum going into my superfood shake, I'm gonna pick the matcha, because the matcha is gonna give me so much more within there. These antioxidants are the kind of rogue fighters within your body. They are out there just fighting against degenerative diseases, cancers, lifestyle diseases. These are all the things that are kind of cleaning up the radicals that are in our body. It's awesome. There's lots of science behind antioxidants. I highly encourage you to go take a look at those as well. So again, now we've moved away from, hey, is it really good protein? Yeah, it is. Let's start talking about some of the other things that are in there. And we're gonna start with the easy ones, like the super greens, because everyone knows you're supposed to eat spinach. I mean, heck, it's been around since the 50s with Popeye eating canned spinach. Let's go to some of the newer ones or harder ones. You've got, I'm sorry, I was talking about phytonutrients at the time. Now I'm talking about antioxidants. Because the antioxidants are actually coming from more of your fruits, etc. So the super fruits are really providing you the antioxidants. The super greens are providing you the phytonutrients, which did all the things I talked about, just I kept saying antioxidants, so forgive me on that one. Antioxidants are the chemical compounds that are found in these super fruits, then they help prevent and repair cellular damage. Every day your cells are getting hurt. Every day you have damage going on. Every night you go to sleep, autophagy kicks in and starts to clean things up, all those good things that you've heard Joy and I talk about a lot during these time frames. The antioxidants would help do that during the day when you're not asleep, when your body's not shutting down. You know, they also are huge on reducing inflammation. Again, I'm not a doctor, there's an idiot on the other side of this camera, but your number one thing that your body is dealing with all the time is inflammation. We are finding out so much more about how bad inflammation truly is for us, both in the short term and the long term, when it comes to everything from joint health to heart health to just how susceptible to viruses are you. These are super critical, even in going so far as maintaining what's known as arterial flexibility. So you hear about plaque forming in your arteries all the time, everything else. This is one of the things that helps fight that and helps give that flexibility, which is really what you want. You don't want rigidity in your vascular system. You want to have that flexibility and that fluidity, and these are the foods that really help in that. Now, which ingredients are we talking about? This is where it gets really fun to start trying to pronounce some of these, like camu camu, acerola chera, bilberry, lycium berry. Pick a couple other ones. I want to talk about, I already talked about green tea, so I want to talk about acerola cherry, bilberry, and rose hips. And the reason I want to talk about those is if you were to go into a holistic drugstore or superfood store and you wanted to get, let's say, a vitamin C supplement. And really what we're talking about with Shakeology, just so you guys know, is how do you help people build a foundational health? You're still going to have people that, I'll use my boys as an example. My boys take a vitamin D supplement on there because they're a little bit deficient on that. But you've got to build that foundation so you can figure out maybe we go off this direction. Well, vitamin C is a huge portion of that. You'll notice that at the bottom, it shows there that the regular formula, so the vegan formula, let's start there. The vegan formula has no added vitamins or minerals of any type. Everything in the vegan formula comes from the direct whole food, meaning that they're not taking some aspect of the food, distilling it down to get that vitamin C, that vitamin A, and that vitamin E, and then adding that distillation into a mix, which is actually what they do in the regular Shakeology. In the regular Shakeology, they do take whole food sources. So they are working with whole food sources to distill out that vitamin C. They're not creating it in a lab, because you can do that chemically in a lab. They're doing it from whole food sources, and they are supplementing and adding that in. Vegan does not do that at all. Now, the reason I want to talk a little bit about, especially acerola cherry and the rose hips. The rose hips is a really, really cool one. And this is kind of gives you an idea of how well thought out the formulation really is. Remember, I talked about thinking about your gut as a straw or a hose that goes through. And just like a hose, if the hose doesn't have any leaks in it or holes in it, whatever you put on one end is going to come out the other end. You're not absorbing anything on there. The rose hip specifically is catalyst is the wrong word. I don't know what the right word really is, but it is one of the chemicals or one of the ingredients in Shakeology that actually allows your body to uptake more specifically of the vitamin C. So when you see it in natural remedies and it's in cold remedies, it's like, the not Z-Packs, but I'm forgetting the name of the, there's a holistic cold preventative fighter that's up, here, take your 4,000 milligrams of vitamin C. It includes rose hips because rose hips actually allows the body to uptake more of that vitamin C. So it's not just about what's that source, it's also about what are the other things in it that help you to be more effective with that, with what you're taking in your body. It's not enough to just bring it in. Your body has to be able to absorb it so it can actually use it. Because if you're just taking it in, you're just pushing it out one way or the other. And we'll get to that when we talk about keto here in a second. And Joy, I'm assuming you're watching the chat and I don't need to stop uncomfortably because it keeps flashing up there. Okay, so superfoods, we talked about antioxidants. Let's talk about number 4. This is by far, okay, maybe not by far. This one is my favorite, not by a ton, but it's really darn close to number 2. It is by far also the hardest to actually conceptualize and communicate that. I'm readily going to admit that. What adaptogens do is in their name. Adaptogens actually help your body adapt to its current situation. Here's the crazy thing about adaptogens. They can help you regulate up and they can help you regulate down, depending on what you need. That is mind-blowing when you understand biochemistry a little bit, that your body can actually take the same thing and say, yeah, I need to regulate my moods up, or no, I need to regulate my moods down. Same thing that comes through. So that is truly amazing. And this is truly all about how does your body react to stress. And your body has no idea, and I'm saying this biochemically. Biochemically, your body has no idea that the stress is coming from your kid is getting ready to think about going to college and you actually have to start filling out college applications and get them to actually settle down and write an essay, dear Lord, help me. Or there's a lion chasing me and I'm gonna die. Your body doesn't have a difference between those two stresses, and I'm truly not sure which one's worse at this point, having going through one of them. But what adaptogens do is work with you on the cellular level to bring you back to that baseline. They're not a suppressant, they're not a stimulant, but they can suppress the activity and they can stimulate the activity. It has been proven to help you be more resilient to stress. And when you look at the list that is on there that really falls into this, you're gonna notice there's a lot of fungi on there. The science behind fungi right now is amazeballs. I mean, truly amazeballs as to what's out there. So this is where you have my favorite ingredient, only because of the name in the Tony Horton video, ashwagandha. But you've also got, you'll notice that there are 4 that are highlighted on there. There is cordyceps mushrooms. If you want a real mind treat, go look up how cordyceps mushrooms are grown. I'm not going to tell you how they're grown. The maitake, the reishi, and the chaga. And the chaga, actually, if you ask Darren O'Lean, the original superfoods hunter, who is one of the 2 brains behind Shakeology, really, he believes that's the #1 superfood in this whole thing. So much so he named his dog Chaga. Let's just put it that way. But those 4 are actually medicinal mushrooms. No, I'm not talking about hallucinogenics and those types of things. I'm talking about literally they are on a list of medicines to actually have been shown to improve. In clinical studies, those have been shown to improve the efficacy of fighting cancer, adrenal fatigue. That's a big one for a lot of people. We're just so on edge all the time, and the only way your body knows how to deal with it is to pump up your adrenaline. But those glands are much like your pancreas. You can only tax them for so long before your body just says, I'm done. Now, with the pancreas, it turns into diabetes. With adrenal fatigue, or with your adrenal glands, turns into adrenal fatigue. But also even mental fatigue. So these ones are super, 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 super cool. And again, this is actually, when you look at dietary science right now, this is cutting edge science of what people are really learning that we are capable of doing, or that our bodies are really capable with these, this group and this blend. So let's talk about blend number 5. And no, I still think adaptogens is my favorite, but this one is a really, really, really darn close number 2. I probably like this system more because I understand it better, but let's talk about what your gut is, number 1. You know, all medicine starts in the gut, like it all does. And when you measure the amount of activity by your immune system, 70% of it is in your gut. And when you think about it, that makes the most sense, where you're putting everything in, for the most part, through your mouth, a little bit through your nose, maybe a little bit sensory coming through your skin, etc. But the vast majority of it is coming in through your gut. I mean, think about it. You cut your finger, everyone's like, get an antibacterial on it, we got to put a Band-Aid on it, we got to protect it, etc. But we're just piling stuff in our mouth at this point, sending it right into our body. So we've got to pay attention to that. And when you look across America, that other stat you see the top there, of the roughly 280 million or so people in the United States, 70 million of them every day suffer from some type of digestive issue. Your gut is an amazing environment. And I say environment for a specific reason. Now, the ingredients that are specifically designed for gut health in Shakeology. Let's start with the first ones, the yucca root, the chicory root. Those are really, kind of get you right to get the right biome, to get the right fiber that's in play, to feed the good stuff. Let's talk the Bacillus coagulus probiotic. So everyone says there's prebiotics and probiotics. The yucca root and the chicory root, those are your prebiotics. The Bacillus is the probiotic. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of different probiotic strains out there. And literally what we're talking about here is a, oh my gosh, what am I thinking? A bacterium that lives within your gut, etc. The cool thing about the Bacillus coagulus, excuse me, it is one of the very, very, very few that you can actually take where the outside coating of this, for lack of a better term, actually can make it through the stomach. So when you think about the digestive tract, it starts at your mouth, you start breaking stuff down with saliva, you swallow past the esophagus, it goes in your stomach. And your stomach is an organ that's about the size of your fist. It's filled with like the most acidic environment you can just even consider. It is ridiculous how much acid's in there to break everything down. Then it goes into the small intestine, which there's like 22 miles of, and it goes in the large intestine out to the colon, all that kind of good stuff. The coating on the outside of that particular probiotic actually is just enough to get it past the stomach and the acid lining that's in there, which means it gets into the small intestine. And the small intestine is where actually the vast majority of digestion actually happens. There is a war that is going on inside your digestive tract literally every day. And here is my wonderful fun fact for you. There's more bacterium living inside of you right now than there have ever been humans on this earth in accumulation. And some of them are good bacteria and some of them are bad bacteria. And the Bacillus coagulus is the good bacteria. It wants the fiber. It doesn't want the carbohydrates and the empty sugars, etc. And here's the thing. Just like any war, whichever soldiers get fed, they win. So if you're feeding them that prebiotics, the fiber from the yucca root, the chicory root, then you're producing more, or you're putting more of the probiotics you actually want in, that Bacillus coagulus, down through there and restocking and refortifying your soldiers that are down there. And then you're providing them all the digestive enzymes, which all those ACEs that you see there, amylase, lactase, all those kind of things, those are all the digestive enzymes. So all the things we're taking in, that's what allows us to better digest all of this food. And over time, the more you're feeding the good stuff and the less you feed the bad stuff, the more the good stuff wins, and it will literally change your biome. We've done calls before, and if you really want to, I'll do them again, but there is literally a nerve that goes from your gut up into your brain and tells your brain, I want this. And when you have more of the good stuff, it tells your brain, I want broccoli. And when you have more of the bad stuff, it tells your brain, I want Long John Silver's. Might be a little bit of an exaggeration on that one, but not really on that one. So, but really we're talking about, again, these 5 groups that we're talking about. It's not just, hey, it's really expensive protein powder. No. What my goal of this has been is to kind of help you guys think of the answers to the questions that aren't necessarily on the FAQs. We've all, at least most of us on this call, and I'm sure this will live on YouTube at some point. So again, fact check everything I've been talking about. We all get those questions that aren't necessarily on the FAQs. And I kind of beat this one into the ground to begin with, but how do I know it's pure, it's organic, it's safe? Elizabeth Deichler at one point in a presentation, gosh, this was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm sure the recording's on YouTube somewhere, actually mentioned in passing, but it just struck me. They actually send more of their product back than they actually use. So more of the raw product comes in, they actually send back than actually ends up getting used. But and again, every batch of Shakeology, whether it is vegan chocolate or pumpkin spice, or I don't know why anybody drinks greenberry, but greenberry, all of it is tested 1,900 times by the time that bag gets to you or your coaches and clients. Is it gluten-free? Haven't really talked about this one. Yes, it is gluten-free. All flavors are actually gluten-free, but it is not produced in a gluten-certified facility. We've had people who had celiac and have digestive issues who've been on vegan, and we would recommend vegan at that point. But with all of the conditions like that, please, please, please always make sure you consult with your physician or your dietitian or both to really be able to tie into that one. We talked about added vitamins already. I'm certainly not the expert on whether you could have it breastfeeding or whether you're pregnant and not. We've certainly had coaches who've done it during those different times. Again, I'd probably recommend the vegan just because of the no added vitamins and no fortified vitamins on those particular ones. Now let's talk about the one that, I don't know, it comes up probably 50% of the time for me when I talk to folks about this one, maybe not. People are doing their diligence. And this was a change that we made to the formula. Like I had anything to do with it. They made the formula probably a year and a half, 2 years ago now, Joy, I think was when they did cane sugar in there. So they added the organic cane sugar. And this really became a couple different ways. Number one, we just couldn't control the quality of the other alternative we were using before. But the cane sugar is, number one, that actually is organically certified. We do only use organic certified cane sugar from suppliers we have. It has roughly the same amount of sugar as a quarter of an apple. Go with me on that. A quarter of an apple. And most importantly, even with that sugar, it's still low glycemic index, which means it does not create a spike in the blood sugar of those who are actually consuming it, which is a super big deal. I've narrowed its organic into the ground at this point. And then my absolute favorite, can I do it on keto? Yes. Yes, you can. I do it on keto. I've been keto in the past. I am fat adapted. I can fall in and out of it. By the time I had fasted like 11 hours today, 12, 13 hours, I was already at 0.7 millimolar because I test my blood pretty regularly. And that was after I had my Shakeology. It really becomes what you put in your Shakeology with it. I think most of you guys on this call know I eat my Shakeology every day. I do a cookie dough that is a nut butter of some type. It is coconut oil, water, and my Shakeology makes it into a cookie dough, which is awesome, by the way. Pumpkin spice one is awesome with dried cranberries because it tastes like pumpkin bread. But the whole point of that is, yes, it absolutely can. I actually think it is more critical that if someone is doing keto, that they are utilizing a superfood shake to be able to make up for a lot of the gaps in those other 5 platforms we talked about. You are not getting antioxidants like you should on a ketogenic diet because you're not eating the fruits that are going to provide all those antioxidants. You could get the phytonutrients because you can eat all the greens that you want on that point. But that's one major one that's not, you're not getting the adaptogens in there because mushrooms, if you eat a lot of mushrooms, you're getting over the carbohydrate rates that you really do. And here's your bonus for everyone. If you are talking about this and you want to use it, someone says, hey, well, I'm keto, etc. Here's you get to sound smart. So yes, you want to position it as a superfood shake that will help really give them still a complete nutritional profile while still minimizing their macros of carbohydrates, because that's all they're really worried about is minimizing the macro. And then you can introduce them to something that is going to change their life. And that thing is called Fatso nut butter. I know you've seen it on our stories. It's a big joke in there. Fatso has 1 net carb. The salt and caramel will change their life. It's less carbs than peanut butter, less carbs than, I'm sure Joy is roasting me in the chat right now. I don't care. But here's why I want you to say this, because I guarantee no one in America actually knows about that thing, because it's actually a Canadian company, but their stuff is awesome And it's actually super good for those who are doing keto in those areas because it is such a low net carb that's in play. So anyways, there's your little bonus that you can kind of get in for them. So those are kind of your standard asking questions, but I want to do a little bit of math and then we're going to open up wide open and I'm going to stop talking. So bag of Shakeology, full retail price, $130. But remember, we talked about this being 5 different blends into one super blend. So let's stop comparing this to other proteins. Yes, they want to bring up a protein shake. Well, what kind of protein is actually in that? Oh, it's 100% rice protein. Awesome. Here's what you're missing. Google searches will do that real fast for you. I want to talk about what about these other 5. Okay, what about the clean protein blend, the super green phytonutrients, the superfood antioxidants, adaptogen blend, digestive support formula. All of that was for you, Heidi. There's your summary for you. That is going to be $26 per formula. So to get the same benefit out of doing all the independent things, because guess what, guys? You can do this independently. Elizabeth Deichler was doing this independently, and that's what kind of started this entire thing with this aspect. Darlene was doing this independently. But I went and said, okay, great. If I was not doing Shakeology, knowing what I know now. Now, before I started Shakeology, I can tell you I didn't pay attention to half of what we just talked about, but it's been a progress over our lives. We were kind of forced to deal with that with multiple different issues. I've researched nutrition on everything from heart health to breast cancer to depression to intraocular eye pressure. And I'm not joking. I've done all that. If I wasn't doing that, I wasn't on Shakeology, I would still be wanting a lot of these different things. So I said, okay, great. Where would I probably go? Where would I get these different things? And let's do a price comparison. So I actually really, and I gotta, again, it's gonna end up on YouTube at some point. I actually really like the company I compared this to. It's a company called On It. It's out of Austin, Texas. They do both supplement lines, nutritional lines, workout stuff. Love their yoga mat we have. I have the Han, thank you, Joy, for buying it for me. I have the Han Solo frozen in carbonite exercise mat. It is the bomb. But if I were to do this, I would go to them because I actually trust them and I know who their owners are, etc. So we would start with a clean protein blend. Now, I'm a whey guy for the most part, so I'm not afraid of that. So if I were to get the same amount of protein in their protein powder, that would be $51 retail. By the way, this includes the 20% off I would get because I'm going to be buying multiple things from them. So I'm already including that in there. But remember, the second compound we talked about was the super greens and the phytonutrients. So sure enough, look, earth grown nutrients, all the green stuff you would actually want in a wonderful canister to put on your shelf just like everything else. $30, I'm gonna round up, $29.17. But I want those superfruits and those antioxidants, so I want that antioxidant support. That one is my least expensive on there. That is $15.20. I want to have that Shroom Tech because they have the adaptogen blend. They've got the Shroom Tech that you're able to take on there. It has a lot of those same mushrooms that are included in there. They are really big on that aspect of their research. And then I also want the gut health. I want that digestive support. I want the prebiotics, the probiotics, the digestive enzymes, all those kind of good things. That would be my monthly routine to match what is in Shakeology. Well, I've done the math for you. And just to do those with my 20% discount on it, we're looking at $191.83. Now, again, I'm not bashing On It in any way, shape, or form. Again, I like them as an organization. I like what they stand for. From a price perspective, though, that's what we're talking about. It's repositioning Shakeology away from, hey, this is maybe a little bit more expensive protein shake than what I could get at GNC, which you're right. You can get super cheap protein at GNC. You're not going to get all of the other things that go into that, like, number one, having a bottom of the bag guarantee. When you're working with someone, and I hope people really understand this, you can send an empty bag back to Beachbody, and if it's within 30 days, Beachbody will either replace it or refund it. And I will tell you, I don't even necessarily think they would make you send the bag back. Now, that's me from anecdotal evidence because we've got a tub of Energize in our closet right now that just tasted off. We contacted them. They said, great, let us send you another one. Don't send us that one back. But you have that 30-day money-back guarantee in the process. Here's the other thing that I guarantee GNC and Vitamin Shop and name your other health, holistic food store, whatever you want here is not going to say. You're not going to be able to walk in there and say, you know what, I think I'd really like an opportunity to be able to refer a couple friends to you and go ahead and get that that $200 worth of supplements for free. Let alone actually turn it into a pretty cool side gig that can actually create a pretty decent income if you're willing to work for it. Income disclaimer here, it's all about how hard you work, how much activity you have in your own business, your own capabilities, all those types of things. Nothing is guaranteed. That's in play. So I can't believe I got all that in less than an hour, because when Joy challenged me with this one, I was like, holy cradola, how am I going to get all this done? I'm scared to look at the chat. So Joy, take yourself off mute. How are we doing? Who's got questions, comments? What do we got going on?
No, we're good. We just have been chatting. That was awesome. It was super awesome. And I really feel like, you know, the goal here is just to raise your confidence in what you represent. When somebody, you know, is telling you that what we present for $150 in a challenge pack is expensive, like, it blows my ever-loving mind. That same person will go blow $150 on dinner and a movie that weekend. We have an incredible value when it comes to what we represent, let alone the fact that they can get it for free. But I tell people that, honestly, like, Shakeology is the Gucci bag of superfood supplements. Like, they should be carrying around their shaker bottle as if it were a Gucci bag, because, I mean, it is of highest integrity and quality. So anyway, what was the documentary you watched about the supplement industry?
Oh, Bigger, Stronger, Faster.
Yeah, I think that really. No.
Check that. That was the steroid one. It was by the same makers, though. Keep talking. I'll figure it out.
Okay. But that really opened our eyes to just how poorly regulated the supplement industry is.
No, it was Bigger, Stronger, Faster. I know it was Bigger, Stronger, Faster. It was a segment in that one.
Yeah. So if, like, you know, want to educate yourself a little bit on why it is so impressive that we go to such great lengths to make sure the integrity of our products is what it is, you could watch, you know, that documentary, Bigger, Stronger, Faster, to get an idea of what actually is happening at GNC. You know, it will blow your mind, honestly. Anyone have questions or comments?
I've always wondered, and I can't find it, where are we, if we say it's globally sourced, where are we getting it all in the same place and manufacturing it? Where's it coming from?
Are you talking about where it's all finally put together, or are you talking about?
Yeah.
I think there's two different facilities. I know one is in California, and I believe the other one, please don't quote me on this one, I believe the other one might be in Tennessee, but I'll find it out for you.
Okay.
I know they're both completed here in the United States.
Okay.
So yeah. The other thing that's really helpful, we've talked about this before, and I'll keep this like in the 2-minute version because I want you all to get off this call and go back to your families. But Shakeology is really the solution to the diet cycle that people fall into. You know, when they start a brand new program, they are going into that program already at a nutrient deficiency, meaning they're not eating enough fruits and vegetables. They're not getting all the micronutrients that their body needs. And so then they start cutting calories. When they start cutting calories, they're also adding a workout on top of that, right? So now they're demanding more from their body with less calories, which exasperates a nutrient deficiency that was already probably there. That's why people have brain fog, sluggishness, irritability, cravings, right? Like, if you ask anybody if they have those symptoms, that's a pretty good indicator that they have a nutrient deficiency. So what happens is people start that exercise program, they start losing weight their first couple days, but they get to Friday and they're super sore and they feel like crap right? And so they go out to dinner with the family, and what happens? They have the margarita, they have the chips and guacamole, and then, you know, they say, screw it, I deserve this, I feel bad anyway, I'm just gonna have the margarita and the chips and salsa. So then they start that, you know, emotional beat up session throughout the whole weekend. They say, well, I'm just gonna start over on Monday. So what Shakeology does is it helps meet that nutrient deficiency and gives them the ability to get past that first hump, if you will, because they're not operating from an exacerbated nutrient deficiency. They're already kind of like meeting a baseline as they start their program. That's why, you know, when they get to Friday, as long as they have a little bit of self-control, like Shakeology is going to help them soften their cravings, right? Have y'all felt that? Did you ever feel like you had superhero powers because you could resist the French fry? So that's what Shakeology does, is it helps them stop that diet cycle that just keeps them looping around and starting over and over again. So when you're talking to somebody about why Shakeology is such a game changer, you can talk to them about nutrient deficiency, which is a real deal thing, and how Shakeology can help them break that cycle. And that's the solution that it provides, right? We're not eating enough fruits and vegetables. We're just not. We're eating a lot of French fries and pizza, but we are not eating enough fruits and vegetables. Anybody have anything else? Okay. Thank you so much, babe, for putting all that information together. Go look on the back of your bag. I challenge you to take just one ingredient and learn about it. Research chaga, research maca root for yourself. And, you know, maybe in your stories this week, you talk about it. Maybe you make a slide and you just talk about, like, did you even know maca root was a thing? A lot of people don't, right? Oh, yeah, we need a picture. Oh, my gosh.
I literally have a slide at the end that's us taking a picture. Because
I mean, like, are we going to just have like a million phones up taking the same picture over and over again? I don't know.
Come on, everybody wave and do a boomerang this time instead.
Oh, we could. We could all do boomerangs. That's for dang sure. That's your favorite. Okay, that's it. You guys are awesome. And we will see you on the team page. We love you. Hey, Kevin. Bye, guys.